2020 presidential election coverage starts now. So here's the 538 forecast. Biden is said to be favored to win the election in this forecast. You'll be pleased to know it was updated only 28 minutes ago, so you're getting the newest forecast. Here it shows a set of Trump scenarios where he wins. You can see it means that he takes the center of the country, essentially. And here are the Biden victories. You can see in the sort of the edge cases where Biden just narrowly wins. He takes the West Coast, he takes that Northeast coast, and he takes the Rust Belt. So that's the Biden victory. West Coast, Northeast, and Rust Belt. And then, of course, he can get much more. There's some latest news, basically, that the second debate has been cancelled or postponed. And some other news about how the voting's already started. We won't know, even on election day necessarily. They also launched their House forecast, and they have a Senate forecast below as well. So here's a graph. Biden is favored to win the election. They simulated the election 40,000 times to see who wins most often. And the sample of 100 outcomes below gives you a good idea of the range of scenarios their model thinks is possible. So they asked the model, hey, run the race 100 times. And the model said, all right, 14 out of the 100 times Donald Trump won, and 86 out of the 100 times Biden won. As you can see, Biden's wins are longer, which means more of the ways in which he won were more of sort of a blowout, with him winning, in some models, above 400 electoral college votes. You almost can't win more than that. I mean, you can, but that's a ridiculous blowout. And whereas Trump, he just gets over the line in their models. And so if you look at what I call the edge cases here, where Trump's just over the line or Biden is just over the line, you can see what the rudiments of their victory look like. So Biden getting that West Coast and the shield just next to that West Coast, New Mexico, Arizona, etc. As well as most of the Northeast and Florida, is one of the ways he wins. Again, another way he wins is he gets the Northeast, he gets the West Coast, he gets the Rust Belt, and he gets a little bit just north of Texas. So, that's how he wins. If you remember the 2016 forecast, they'd also won Colorado, New Mexico, and they'd won the West Coast, they'd won the Northeast, Colorado, New Mexico, but they lost the Rust Belt. So Biden, in his edge case, is getting just above that 270, means that he has to win this Rust Belt. So we're talking about Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. And that would put him over where Clinton was in 2016. And over 270 electoral college votes as well. Whereas Trump's edge cases sort of look like him capturing parts of that Rust Belt. He can capture parts of that Rust Belt. Pennsylvania there. I think there they have Wisconsin. Double check. So yeah, so that's what his edge cases look like. Then they have every outcome in their simulations. All possible electoral college outcomes for each candidate with higher bars showing outcomes that appeared more often in their 40,000 simulations. So here they have a lot of Trump losses, and here they have obviously a lot of high bars, more outcomes with Biden victories, and they have a reduced set of bars for Trump victories and a reduced set of bars for Biden losses. And but there are possibilities where Trump wins, and there are possibilities where Biden loses. And then they have their snake chart, where states that are forecasted to vote for one candidate by a big margin are at the ends of the path, for example there, while tighter races are in the middle. Bigger segments mean more electoral college votes. Trace the path from either end to see which state could put one candidate over the top. So you can see these states are in the bag for the Democrats, these states are in the bag for Republicans. So what we really want to pay attention to is these states right here. And what they're forecasting is that I'd say is controversial, okay, I think starts beyond New Hampshire. I think most people watching this think New Hampshire's in the bag for the Democrats. Fine. Minnesota in 2016, if you remember, did not go to the Republicans. Minnesota went to the Democrats. So it was a part of the Rust Belt. It's not actually in the Rust Belt. There's an Iron Range up here. It's not actually in the Rust Belt. So apologies for that. But it was the part of this Rust Belty area that did go to the Democrats, as well as Illinois, of course. And so they're forecasting Minnesota continues to go to the Democrats. Probably that's not controversial. This is where it starts to get controversial. Michigan, which polling does show Biden is up about 8.8%. that they forecast going to Biden. Okay, a lot of people think Trump will lose Michigan, particularly with COVID and things like that. That's pushed his ratings a little bit lower. That is kind of his biggest problem area, is his handling of COVID. And in a state like Michigan, where his victory was very, very tight, in Michigan, his victory in 2016 was very tight. Something like COVID is going to definitely, especially when polling was already showing that actually was drifting toward Biden, it's going to push it over the top. And Michigan is probably not going to go to the Republicans as their models correctly show. Then you have Nevada, where Trump's been campaigning. They show it going to the Democrats, but I think this is a much tighter race than they're letting on in this model. Here, they have a forecasted vote share of Biden at 53% against Trump at 46%. Then they have Pennsylvania, again, much tighter than they're showing. They're very confident, though, that actually it'll switch back. Go back to 2016. Pennsylvania went red, so it went Republican. They're confident it's going to switch back to the Democrats, and that's 20 electoral college votes, as you can see by the length of it. But they're still not over 270. Where they get over 270 is Wisconsin. Once they win Wisconsin with its 10 electoral votes, and they're forecasted to win with sort of an 8% margin here. And again, this is up for grabs in my opinion, but there it is. Once they get Wisconsin, they're over the 270 line. That's it. They've won the election. But they're also forecasted to win Nebraska's 2nd district, which I think is probably accurate in that case. Florida, which I do not think is accurate in the case of Florida, because the Latin vote is actually more heavily in favor of Trump now than it was in 2016. And the Latin vote is what made Florida an upset in 2016. It's stronger now. So black vote share is about the same, but the Latin vote's going to tip it over, I think, in those key sort of seats that they have to win. So they have Florida going to the Democrats. Arizona, again, another state that Trump's been campaigning in, they have going toward the Democrats. So I'll let you decide whether or not you think Arizona is going Democrat. I think it's got a strong Democrat presence. There's a lot of people moving from California, and the cities are going more Democrat each year in Arizona, where a lot of the votes are. North Carolina, they have going Democrat, which I think is that one I think they've gotten wrong. In North Carolina, Florida in particular, I think the two that they've gotten wrong. North Carolina is, as far as I can tell, sitting at 0.0% for each candidate. If you look at the bulk of the votes, it does show Biden up